Ryan Nanni, the co-creator of Who Killed College Football, the podcast series. I could not be more sincere when I say this is literally one of the best pieces of work that I have listened to. I'm sad that it's only you only have 6 suspects. I am coming to the 6th and final suspect. And I think when I first contacted you, I said that the NFL was my favorite episode. And then I've kind of gone back and listened to the other, and like, no, man, they're all tied. I have not listened to the most recent one, which I know dropped today. First of all, I want to talk about, because you're a college football guy anyway. So I want to talk about the chaos that we just saw this past weekend, which I think is quintessential college football all across the country. But what, you and Stephen Gottfried, where'd you come up with the idea to do this? And I think people believe that you believe college football is dead, but I don't think that's the case, and I don't think you think that's the case. So walk me through basically the project.
Sure. So this goes back to probably like 2019, 2020, when NIL first gets going in the California state legislature. California passes this pay-to-play act that sort of throws all of college football into a tizzy. And Stephen and I sat down and we said, well, obviously we don't live in a binary where, oh, well, players never got paid before this. Right. That's never happened. And so we thought about, like, how can we sort of tell the story of compensation in college football in a way that helps people understand how you get to something like California doing that. And then as time went on, we had sort of kept kicking that idea around, and then conference realignment really gets rolling in a big way, and the playoff starts expanding in a big way, and the transfer portal starts. And everything just sort of keeps spinning out of, not necessarily out of control, but snowballing into a version of college football that looks very different from what you or I or lots of other fans may say is the sport that they grew up loving or came to love at a different point in time. And so I think it was mostly grounded in, how do we take what's happening now and sort of show you how it fits into a bigger timeline and a bigger set of incentives and decisions and all of that, and give you maybe not more comfort with what's going on, but more understanding of what's going on.
I mean, the whole thing is great, and you go through, and each episode is a different suspect, and I love the way that you guys have presented this. Television, the conferences and the conference realignment game, which, I mean, are tied together. And they're really all tied by one thing. The NCAA, I do want to get into that with you, the National Football League. And the reason I reached out at that point was the NFL's ability, and really this is as much luck as anything else, to have their entire minor league system paid for by other people. This is NIL. This is third-party payment. It's all wrapped up into one, whereas baseball has to spend how much money with their minor league system. Even the National Hockey League funds the American Hockey League. The NBA's got the G League. So the NFL is just... And they make those kids stay in college for 3 years. They don't even allow... That's where, this is it, but then I'm not sure. So let me get... Because I think you had a lot of fun with the NFL episode. What was the thing about the NFL that maybe thinks that maybe you lean towards them as the actual murderer of college football?
Well, I think it is the farm system idea. And this is the thing that I think both the NFL and college football have been really upfront about for years, about, like, this is a developmental league that the NFL benefits from. And, think about how, if you follow college football, think about how many 5 stars, 4 stars come in, and it's like, this guy's going to be awesome. He's going to win the Heisman. He's going to win 3 national titles. And they go through the college process. And some of those guys, go on to the league and go on to great things. And some of them wash out. And for all the guys that wash out, that's money the NFL never had to spend. Mm-hmm. That's stress the NFL never had to worry about. And thinking about what that did for the possibility of college football's labor market was what really stuck it out to me. Was, if you are a high level college baseball or high school baseball or high school basketball player, you don't have to go to college necessarily. You have, even with the one and done system, there are ways that you can go to the G League, go play overseas, whatever, and build a career. College football has nothing even close to that. There is no way, if you are talented high school senior, where you're like, well, okay, I would like to go make $300,000 playing college football. Maybe now you do with the advent of NIL and the house settlement, but for decades it was like, nope, go get your scholarship, go get your training table meal. That's what we have for you.
Ryan Nanni, again, co-creator of the Who Killed College Football podcast. It's also a Substack that you should get to and support. In that episode, there was a running back, and this is what really screamed out to me, and I forget the name of the running back. That's my fault on that, who for 1 year was a star, and then because he couldn't go, he had to wait 2 more years to go to the NFL, ended up getting hurt, had 2 horrific knee injuries, was ultimately drafted, but much later than he would have been had he gone after his freshman year, like Maurice Clarett, tried to sue and accomplish, which he did not. And he ultimately didn't have a pro career. And the amount of money that he could have earned in a more fair system, I'll say it because I've said this for a long time, that it's not a fair system, but it's a system. That is another way the NFL benefits, and I think colleges get hurt too.
Yeah, there are ways that's Marcus Lattimore you're remembering in South Carolina, and there are ways that now we see players get insurance coverage for these kind of injuries, and that probably bridges the gap somewhat. But yeah, I think it's that second injury that really sticks out, because he gets that first injury his sophomore year, and even after that, when we're doing the big board thing, it's not like while players are in college, it's like, well, we don't want to think they're students. We don't want to denigrate them by thinking about what they might be as pro athletes. Like Marcus Lattimore, you can go back and find Mel Kiper's big board. Marcus Lattimore, I think, is like a top 15 pick coming into his junior year, but then destroys his knee and never plays a snap in the NFL. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. And would Marcus Lattimore have jumped straight to the NFL after his sophomore year? I have no idea. But he never got the choice. He never had the opportunity. And so there's a lot of what ifs like that, where you sort of just I think Trevor Lawrence was another case where we looked at, he obviously didn't get hurt in college. But after his freshman year, everybody agreed, what does Trevor Lawrence have left to prove? And so he had to put in 2 more years of potential injury risk before he could go first round, first pick.
It's interesting. Very quick story. We don't have to really expand on this, but to insurance, I know somebody that would have been a high pick, had insurance, and was still, as a senior at UNC, got hurt in a bowl game, never had a pro career, and while he collected an insurance policy, it was a pittance of what he would have earned in the NFL. So that, to me, is it's such a far cry. It pays bills, but it's not what you normally would have gotten. What I want to do here is kind of kick it a little bit forward, because your episode, I just listened to the episode on coaches, and the amount of money that Jimbo Fisher is being paid to not coach, and then you use Tommy Tuberville early as an example, and maybe it's Gus Malzahn. They're the same to me as examples of coaches who get paid to not coach. I am curious, because I have always said this: every coach in college is either overpaid or underpaid. There's nobody who gets paid the money that they earn, that they actually deserve, that they're worth. Like Nick Saban was always underpaid. You couldn't have paid him too much money. Maybe that's Kirby Smart today. I don't know. Right. But every other coach is overpaid. Lane Kiffin is not worth $8 million a year or whatever he's getting. Do you think with the house settlement, knowing that these schools are going to have to pay $20 to $22 million a year to football players, current and past, do you think the coaching salaries will take a hit as a result?
I'm not sure the coaching salaries will, because the agents still they still control that transaction in such an outsized way that you don't see in pro sports at all. Like, there is a stranglehold that they have that I think the schools are kind of on their back foot, for a long time. I think in the short term, you're going to see a lot fewer of those buyouts get paid. Like, you have a
Mhm.
lot of examples this year of coaches at big name programs who have had disappointing seasons, who are not getting fired and not getting paid the huge buyout to
Right.
go away so we can move out on to the next guy. And I think that very much is informed by, we know a big bill is coming and we need to save money to spend on talent rather than work out our feelings to bring on the next guy who might not be any good either. And I think I think Jimbo Fisher will be kind of the last big number for a while, because I think schools are going to have to say, listen, we don't like winning 7 games, but we don't really want to come up with $40 million. And so we're going to deal with that and hope that next year is better. I think you're going to see forced patience in college football going forward.
You might have been channeling the name Billy Napier there, who, by the way, is starting to win some games in Florida.
Yes.
And maybe they ultimately got it right. Look, they treat coaches in college like the NFL treats quarterbacks. They overdraft them, overpay them, over demand from them, and then get rid of them before they've had a chance to do anything. Ryan Nanni, co-producer, co-creator of the Who Killed College Football podcast. I'm going to ask you for your verdict in a second, if you're willing to even do that, or if there's going to be an episode, maybe in episode 7, where you and Steven go through. But real quick about this past weekend.
Yeah.
Isn't this past weekend exactly what the college football romanticists, and I'm going to put you in that category, Spencer Hall, Nicole Auerbach, your crew from Shutdown Fullcast, Jason Kirk, also another one. Isn't this past weekend exactly what is, to me, it's a quintessential college football weekend. We had dumb everywhere and field storms, which frankly wasn't great. It was good TV probably, but it was a little dangerous. Isn't that what it was? The perfect college football weekend?
Yeah, to go back to the question you asked me at the top, I definitely don't think college football is dead. I think the version of college football that I grew up with when I went to college, unnamed number of years ago, that version is dead.
Yeah.
But college football has always been doing this, and I think you're exactly right that weekends like this last one are the common thread. Like, we need the App State beating Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
We need the Stanford pulling a huge upset over USC. We need Florida somehow becoming a fly in the ointment, like that. And that is still powerful. That is still there. And you still have like that sense of danger and unexpectedness that doesn't really exist in the NFL. Like, look, Kansas City can get pushed to the wire by the Panthers, and it can be like, wow, that's a fun game to watch. But it doesn't have any implications for, whether there's no poll that Kansas City's going to drop in because they didn't play the Panthers particularly well.
Right.
And we college football is such a interpretive sport. It matters what everybody thinks, that these kind of results matter even more from that perspective. Because it's not just Ole Miss has one more loss in the column. It's, what does that loss mean? What does it look like? How does it make us feel? It's very artsy in its own way.
Yeah, the NFL doesn't have, and the band is out on the field. They don't have that moment. Although I was at a Jets game back well before you were born, where the Snoopy and the Red Baron were flying at halftime, and it did crash into the stands. I don't think college football's got that. But yeah, this past weekend was crazy. And yeah, college football is more of an art than it is a science, and maybe that's what you're getting at.
Yes.
Will there be an episode where you and Steven give your verdict as to who you think is the actual killer?
I'm going to give you the most lawyerly answer possible, and that's yes and no. We are going to have an epilogue that's going to drop probably after the holiday week.
Okay.
We're going to record it pretty soon, where we will do something approaching that. But I think the other answer is, you said it's only 6 episodes. The more we get into it, the more I expect there will be, like, you'll hear more from us. Like, there are people we wanted to talk to who we either couldn't get or didn't want to talk to us right now, that I'm hopeful. We've mentioned Nick Saban. Nick Saban hasn't had time to talk to us. I'm hopeful in this offseason he can sit down with Steven and they can have a nice discussion about what happens. And if that does, we'll put it up on the podcast feed as well.
I'm telling you, it's awesome. These will be origin stories, like we've had in Star Wars and others. Apparently, also Yellowstone is doing them. Oh, we got to stop that. Ryan Nanni, Celebrity Hot Tub on Twitter and Blue Sky. I know you were there. That's how I contacted you.
Yes.
So thank you so much for doing this. This is our first conversation. I enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too painful. We'll do it again.
All right. Thanks a lot for having me.
You got it.